I couldn't have learned hadith or done the things I'd done if I'd not sat with that Zanzibari and Hanafi Sheikh, who did Ibn Majah and Nasai. I wouldn't have done those kutub if I hadn't sat with him. But I did Ibn Majah and Nasai with that Sheikh after Fajr. That didn't hurt me, and it didn't take anything away from him. Oh, what are you teaching Hanbalis and some Shafi'is? What are you doing that for? We're studying hadith. We're studying ilm. It didn't hurt us.
Yeah.
He didn't say anything to us about it. But that attitude that people have, there's a problem with that, because Badruddin al-Aini, Imam Mahmud Badruddin al-Aini, rahimahullah, he didn't feel threatened by Fath al-Bari being written by Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. In fact, his Umdat al-Qari is the answer to Fath al-Bari. It's the answer to that, because his students were in some of the classes of Fath al-Bari, and when Imam Hajar al-Asqalani would bring up his usul points and some of the Shafi'i fiqh points, the students would go back and, what's our answer to that? So then Imam Badruddin al-Aini would answer it, right? But when Ibn Hajar found out that they were using his durus and taking notes, he took out a copyright against them, because he said, hey, this book isn't published yet. It's going to be published in a couple of years. Stop going against my material.
Yes.
So Imam al-Aini, he stopped writing published answers and teaching it. He waited until Fath al-Bari came out. And then when it came out, then he wrote his answer to Fath al-Bari, which is Umdat al-Qari. Which one of my teachers, he went through that with us. He did a comparative study with Fath al-Bari and Umdat al-Qari. And that didn't hurt us. It didn't make us look down upon the Shafi'is or look down upon the Hanafis. It didn't hurt anything. Because ilm, there's no ta'assub in learning knowledge. People have their tafdeel. They have their preference.
No.
That's the tafdeel. But there's no ta'assub to the ilm except to the book of Allah, the sunnah of his messenger, and the first 3 generations. That's our ta'assub. That's our ta'assub.
SubhanAllah. If I look back my own life, Sheikh, growing up at home, I was taught the basics of salah and fasting and istinja by my parents and my elder siblings. But my very first teacher who would teach me every week, he was a Moroccan Maliki teacher. So from him, I actually learned sirah, ihsan, akhlaq, adab, alamat al-sa'a, theology. But if I would, for example, let's say if my father would have said, no, you're going to go to our madhhab specific, I might have never learned that, for example, to begin with, my foundations.
Yeah, and you would have possibly lost out on,
yes,
on
exactly.
something.
Yes.
And then you would have said, oh man, how come I lost out? Oh, you can't learn from them. What are you learning from them for?
Yes.
It's like, well, because there's ilm here. I'm not, it's not an entirely different religion.
Yes, exactly.
There's ilm that I'm taking from here, that I'm learning, that I'm taking away from these particular people. And it's not hurting me to take this ilm. It's not hurting me because it's ilm that's not specific to my condition. So obviously you'll have whatever fiqh rulings that you have to abide by. But if I go to someone else and I study As-Siratul Nabawiyah, that's not going to hurt fiqh. That's not going to be a contradictory rule. He said some stuff about the nullifiers of wudu. Well, no, As-Siratul Nabawiyah by Imam Ibn Hisham, it's not going to cover that area.
No.
If I went and I sat down and I listened to a sheikh who went over usul al-fiqh, and we did comparative usul al-fiqh. Okay, well, he's mentioning all the schools regarding comparative usul al-fiqh. Now, he'll mention his preference. Okay, wonderful. Alhamdulillah, it's not going to hurt anything. If someone went to, if I sat in Shaykh Sa'id al-Kumali's classes on the Muwatta, I know that he's Maliki, and I know he'll give his opinions based on the Maliki school, but I'll be able to benefit because that's a hadith book as well. So I know that I'm not going to get into a situation where I'm going to get confused or I'm going to be in trouble or anything like that. And people for thousands of years have studied Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawood, Darimi, the Musnad. They know that all of them belong to the school of Al-Basra. They know that. And it hasn't harmed them to study those books. There's commentaries on them by Nuruddin as-Sindi has a commentary on Abu Dawood. And he's Hanafi. He has commentaries on Tirmidhi. He's Hanafi. He's got commentaries on Nasai and Majah. He's Hanafi.
No.
He has commentaries. It hasn't hurt anything. It doesn't harm anything. Right? The late Sheikh Muhammad ibn Musa al-Ethiopi was a Hanafi from Ethiopia, and he did commentaries on the Sihah, but it didn't hurt. It had hurt him. Oh, what's he doing commentary on Abu Dawood for? He's Hanbali and he's Hanafi. Why is he? No. It's the ilm that we share in common with the jarh and the ta'dil, the other things. Now, the particular hadith that render fiqh rulings, he's obviously going to discuss the fiqh behind that. Well, it could be this, it could be that. That's where you get al-fiqh al-muqarin. And when you understand that, like we never had ta'assub. We had one incident of a ta'assub issue, but this is when we were really new in the madhhab. And we got sat down and we got ta'deeb was done and we didn't do it again. Because you're not going to be able, you can't have that type of attitude if we're going to be in Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani's Bulugh al-Maram classes. Al-Muntaqa by Majduddin ibn Taymiyyah. Umdat al-Ahkam, the Sughra and the Kubra. You're going to have problems functioning in those classes. You're listening to Ibn Kathir's tafsir and you hold rancor towards the Shafi'is. You got problems towards the Hanbalis, so you can't benefit from Adwa al-Bayan because you're thinking, but why? Why isn't he? Why is he Hanbali? Why isn't he Maliki anymore? Like you're holding these problems, so you can't go through a Jami al-Saghir. Well, why was it Shafi'i? Why? You're not going to be able to function in any real capacity because you're always going to be having suspicion on other slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why you'll find in Darul Kufr, the people that are that deeply involved in ta'assub, they're the people that are the furthest from the truth because they're not getting ilm. And often, and as I said before, often the flags that they say that they're carrying, they don't even know anything about what they're following. Wow. It's just because someone that they like is that thing. Oh, so-and-so's Maliki. Oh, I'm Maliki. And that's it. Now he's Maliki. But he doesn't know anything about Imam Malik himself or the Amal of Ahl al-Madina. Or he just knows, okay, well, what do the Malikis say? They say this, oh, then that's what I am. He doesn't know anything behind like what that is, what that entails. He actually does a disservice to the Maliki school or the Hanafi school or the Shafi'i school or the Ash'aris. He does a disservice by claiming Ash'ari or Maliki. He does a disservice to it by just associating with it or associating more particular with the conversation we're having with fiqh. He does a disservice associating with it and being so jahil in that matter that he brings shame upon that particular madhhab.
And this extremism then also leads to all of these random ahkam, such as that they start saying, okay, my daughter or my son will only marry from my madhhab, only Maliki, for example.
Yes. Or these issues start to be a problem. Because now it becomes sectarian because it causes furqa. Now it becomes furqa. It's different. It's different if someone says, all of us are from Mauritania. So we're hoping that someone that marries into us will know our school. If he's not from our school, he'll at least know it. Because we all live in Mauritania.
Sure, yeah.
We all live here. All of us only know Qalun and Warsh. It's not just Maliki Yawmiddin, it's other things that are going to come up. لا تسمع فيها لاغية فطعام مساكين instead of فطعام مسكين, right? It's issues that are going to come up in things like that, right? So that stuff is going to come up. So I understand if they say, listen, if someone marries in that's not, inshallah, we hope that you'll also be understanding of us as well, that you know about us, right? But to insist and say, it's only going to be this. It's only going to be that. Well, you don't know what they're going to become when they get older.
No.
You don't know what they're going to become when they get older. Now, if you say, listen, for the meantime, especially if you know someone's personality, if you know like one of your children, he doesn't pay much attention to detail, or he might be a bit sloppy, or he doesn't take down details well, and he's not that knowledgeable to be a student of knowledge, you might advise him against changing schools if you say, listen, you don't have the mental acuity to do this because of these issues. You might say that would be valid because, listen, he doesn't know enough and he's going to wind up nullifying his wudu or whatever else because he doesn't pay enough attention. He's not dedicated enough to take on such a big life decision as going from one school to another. Yeah, you'd advise someone. Those are areas where you could advise someone.
No.
But you wouldn't try to stop people accessing other ilm altogether or say, what are you going with him for? You wouldn't do that. That would be wrong. But if you advise people in certain circumstances, because I've done that where people have come to me, I've received emails. Oh, yes, I've decided to do this. What makes you think you decided to do that? Akhi, you live in India. Where are you from? Oh, well, I'm in Mumbai. Okay, you're in Mumbai, India.
That's
Why would you change schools in your Mumbai?
Right.
Are there a dearth of scholars where you're from? Oh no, there's many scholars, everything else. Okay, so why would you change the Hamid school in Mumbai, India? Are there muftis out there that can look after you? Well, no. So how are you going to what if you can't get in contact with me?
Especially if you can't travel as well.
Yeah, you can't travel. We can't study kutub together. I've never met you. Listen, stay upon what you're upon. Because that's the better option for you. You're in the middle of Mumbai, India.
Yes.
In a Hanafi stronghold. You're going to be that one that's not. Well, I mean, what's going to happen if you go to get married and you have other issues and all this other stuff when you need answers to masail?
Yes. Not having the tools.
That's it. You won't have the tools. What if there's a day? What if something big comes up? You go on Umrah and an incident happens regarding ihram or something like that, and I'm busy. Maybe I'm asleep because I'm some hours behind you. I'm asleep, so I can't answer that question. Now you've had to make another decision, but it's caused 2 other additional fiqh issues. No, stay as you are. You're fine as you are. Because one of the things that social media has also done is the people that are deciding that they're going to identify with a madhhab and just start attributing themselves to a madhhab, it's also caused them greater problems because they can't access sometimes in person the people of that given school. Exactly. And they're kind of grazing from many different fields, thinking that this is Maliki fiqh or whatever else, and it's harming them. Whereas although they were jahil before, they were ignorant, grossly ignorant before, they were upon something because their family did teach them the bare minimum. And they gave them enough of the bare minimum to get them established on that. But now that they're jahil, thinking they have knowledge, they're actually hurting themselves because what they had before was safe. Now they've ventured outside of that. I'm this now. Yes. Well, wait a minute. Do you have people that you can get in contact with in person? Have you met any of the people from this particular school? Well, no, but I've always felt a pull towards this. Well, listen, I feel a pull towards Salisbury steak. But that's got nothing to do with what you feel a pull towards. It's not relevant. It's, can you practically follow this? Can you practically carry it out? Well, I mean, I feel like, no, we're not talking about feelings. Can you practically carry out this fiqh and study it and carry it through and follow it? Because fiqh is day to day. Every day you're doing fiqh. This isn't like la tusma'u fiha laghiya versus la tasma'u fiha laghiya. This isn't like that. This isn't like Maliki versus Maliki. This isn't la tudamuna versus, this isn't tadaruna madlazim versus la tadurruna with no madlazim. This isn't like that. Kalla barrana, where there's no saqta latifa, where versus kalla bal rana. Those are things where, okay, listen, when I'm in public reciting with people, I'll do saqta latifa. But when I'm by myself and call it, I'll just recite it like I do. Yeah, that's stuff you can do. But this is fiqh. It's day-to-day things.
Exactly.
You have to have people you can be in contact with in person, people you can gain access to on a regular basis because your conditions from day to day change so drastically and things happen. But people are jumping in and doing things. So brothers have sometimes contacted me, some sisters as well. Yes, I've decided to do this. Who are you to make a decision and then put that responsibility on me? Now I have to look after you. No, I don't.
Oh.
And you shouldn't be doing that either. You're coming from a country where it's majority, 99% of the people are this. Now you've decided I'm this. How are you going to carry out your obligations?
Exactly.
Because the thing is, with those people being established on that thing in that area, that country has been affected now by the culture of that fiqh. So now when you decide that you're going to be this, like you're in Mauritania and you've decided, yeah, I'm following Hanafi fiqh now. It's like, okay, well, Mauritania, the way its culture has been affected by fiqh, everything is leaned towards Maliki fiqh. Have you thought about how you're going to now negotiate living in Mauritania or Senegal or the Gambia or Morocco being Hanafi now? Have you thought about like how you're going to deal with that now? No. So then you've made a rash decision based upon a feeling. which has its own inherent dangers.
Mm. And
so I've told brothers, I said, listen, before you decide to change, do istikhara or think about it sometime. Because you're going to have to deal with other issues that you have to contend with. It's not a light matter. It's some stuff that you're going to have to deal with, because you have to dedicate your life to this, and you have to dedicate your time to it as well. Fiqh takes time. It takes dedication. And that's why it makes me both sad and angry to see people reducing the madhhabs to flag carrying and backslapping exercises, because fiqh requires so much dedication. And people will cause these problems. Like how many, I'll give an example of a modern example. How many Malikis today in Dar al-Kufr are saying that niqab is a bid'ah because they've misread a Maliki fiqh text?
Yes, of course, recently.
Sheikhs have had to come out. Legitimate Maliki students of knowledge have had to quote sheikhs and show side-by-side texts to show that fatwa does not mean that.
Exactly.
Because we've had to give the original, because the niqab is normally something that the original niqabs you pull up from below, because it was a flap that hung on your garment. So you pull it from below, or you pull it from around those older niqabs. The niqabs now, they snap around the head. So the niqabs now have kind of evolved slightly differently. And when they were talking about niqab, they weren't talking about face covering altogether. They're talking about a niqab that pulls from. So this is the issue that's happened. And it's caused all this stuff. That yes, the Maliki madhhab says this. No, it doesn't. But that's a misreading of it from people who are not grounded in the Maliki madhhab and don't have ilm. They don't have ilm. And it's not just the Malikis. People saying that Shafi'is, it's across the board. They don't have ilm. And they've picked it up as a slogan, as a flag, as a congratulation exercise. Oh, I'm this now. Oh, you're that? I'm that too. Okay, so now there's two of them. Two peas in a pot. We're together against everyone. Look at so-and-so. He's only this method. Haha. We've got Nawawi. We've got this. We've got that. And you don't. Like Imam Nawawi was thinking that when he was learning from Shamsuddin al-Qudama. Or like Ibn al-Mabrid was thinking that when he was writing the book about Imam Abu Hanifa. These people didn't think like that. They did not think like this. These are diseases. You had Hanafi scholars. There's a big Hanafi scholar, Abdul Ghani ibn Ismail al-Nabulsi. We're aware of him, right? The big Hanafi scholar, the big Ash'ari Hanafi scholar. He studied in Salihiyah.
MashaAllah.
On the end of his name, he has a Salihi. He wasn't Hanbali. He didn't become Hanbali. He studied in Salihi. And one of the, sometimes when his name is put, they put as-Salihi after his name. He studied in the Salihiyah. That doesn't take any, and there have been other Hanafi scholars that have studied in Salihiyah. They didn't feel threatened. Oh, I can't study with them. They're a bunch of Hanbalis. Watch out. Or, oh no, don't sit with them. They're Hanafis. Look out. No.
The current Khatib at Jami al-Hanabila is a Shafi'i.
Yes.
Shaykh Yasin al-Qudmani.
Yeah, it doesn't take away from anything from him. It doesn't take anything. And then Shaykh Zada, who teaches Jami, he's Hanbali, but he doesn't say, I object to having a Khatib that's not Hanbali. I object. Who are you to be on the mimbar of Abu Umar al-Maqdisi? No. The Shaykh that's teaching the Jami al-Saghir is Hanbali, and the other one is Shaykh. It doesn't remove anything any more than the Hanbali or Maliki Sheikhs that they've had at Jami Bani Umayyah then and now. It doesn't remove or take anything away.
No.
It doesn't harm anyone's akhirah. It doesn't harm. And some people say, oh, well, Brother Jafar, you're over exaggerating. Well, no, if you look at the way people act about this issue right now, that's how they act. Like it harms your akhirah, or it takes something away from your deen. Like someone's lost idala. Oh, so-and-so Shafi, look out for them. And then people will make these little quotes. Never take this from a Hanafi. Never do that with a Shafi. Never do this from a... It's like, this is stupidity.
No.
Because you're undermining these imams from whichever madhhab, these big towering people of ilm and taqwa.
One of the things I've seen in the English-speaking world is, especially when they attack the Hanbali madhab, because from what they know some Salafiyya from Riyadh who merely claimed on the Hanbali madhab. So because of those Salafiyah, they then start rejecting all the Hanbali texts. Okay, they rejected Al-Barbahari. They started rejecting all of these.
Which again, to even things up, does this mean Abu Bakr Bashir, who founded Jama'ah Islamiyah, who did the Bali bombings, does that undermine the Shafi'i school?
Exactly.
Or Abdullah al-Judi', Abdullah al-Judi', those people, they insist that they're Shafi'is. Or Shukri Mustafa Abdul Al, who founded Jamaat al-Takfir wa Hijra, he was Hanafi. So because the fact that those Khawarij were Hanafis, or Sayyid Qutb was Hanafi, does that take away from?
No.
Does that take, or the fact that Yusuf al-Qaradawi, he says he's a Hanafi. Or the Dar al-Nadwa, they say they're Hanafis. No, they're Jahil, they're Ahl Bidah. Yeah, but they say they're Hanafis though. And the Ahmadis who follow Ulum Ahmad of Qadian, they learn Hanafi fiqh. They say they're Hanafis. They insist they're Hanafis. Or some of the members of the GIA, the Armed Islamic Group, some of them said they were Malikis. Does that get removed now? We take away from them? Or the Zahiriyah? A lot of the Zahiriyah said they were Malikis. They were the true Malikis. Like we can find in history anyone from a given madhhab. Al-Humaydi, before Al-Humaydi became upon Ahlus-Sunnah wal-Jama', he was a Shafi'i, he was Mu'tazila. He wrote his Jami' Bain al-Sahihain. He was originally in the beginning of his affair, he was Shafi'i in fiqh, but he was Mu'tazila. We don't take anything from the Shafi'is now. Like it's just people they don't live in a reality that you and I recognize as the real world. Because if we start doing that, some of the Salafis say they're Hanbali's, that's a recent phenomenon. And I can tell you the date that happened. That happened in 1997. I remember when it was happening, because in my time, people were disparaging madhhabs altogether. Right? And the first one to say, I'm such and such in fiqh, but Salafi and Aqidah, was a man by the name of Mujahideen Ryder. And he said, I'm Hanafi in fiqh, but Salafi in Aqidah. And the Salafis of Yemen were the first ones to make this distinction. I'm this in fiqh, but this. So the Salafis of Damaj, they say they're Shafi'is. Does that mean we don't study Shafi'i? No, because they're not known for it. Yeah, they are. Abdullah Judai says he's Shafi'i. We don't take from them now. Or Sayyid Sabiq, who wrote Fiqh al-Sunnah, who distorted all the methods when he tried to give the aqwal and didn't give the aqwal properly. Sayyid Sabiq, he said he's Shafi'i. We take from him? Well, no, we can't take from him. He's Jahil. Why can't we take from him? Why can't we take from him? Usama bin Laden said he's Shafi'i. When he was alive, he said he was Shafi'i.
Wow.
Ayman al-Zawahiri said he was Shafi'i. No, he did. Yes, he did. I have the aqwa of the Qasr. He said he was Shafi'i.
So now, we need to start rejecting it now.
We need to start rejecting. Or either that, we need to either join Al-Qaeda or start rejecting the Shafi'i method, because hey man, they're Shafi'is, man. What type of nonsense is this, man?
Yeah, I mean that whole argument, because when you go back in past, and without any prejudice against any madhab, but we see, like you've mentioned, right, 500 years Ahnaf were affected by i'tizal, right?
Yes.
But then you also have, for example, the Salimiyya cult claiming the Maliki madhab as well. So if we're going to use such examples, it makes no sense, because all madhabs, you can do this for all madhabs if you begin doing this.
All of them had issues. Ibn Aqil went into Ilm al-Kalam and it hurt him. It hurt him. Ibn Hamid went into Ilm al-Kalam, he got into philosophy, and it hurt him. In the beginning of his very early career, Najmuddin al-Tufi was Shi'i. Shi'i Mu'tazili in the early part of his career. Now, that's not all the Hanabi, but that's one individual from them. And it hurt them. It damaged Ibn Hamid. He said some things about the Sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he shouldn't, because he went into Ilm al-Kalam, which he'd been warned about that, but it's hard to warn everybody. So we went and did it anyway, and it hurt him. Ibn Aqil, it hurt him. Right? Taqi ibn Taymiyyah, it hurt him. Right? Ibn Qayyim, not so much. But now, if I choose those 3 or 4 people out of the thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of Hanbali scholars, that's not going to hurt the madhab at all.
No, exactly.
Because there is more sweetness in it than not. And I had to deal with a lot of people, this recent phenomenon of people saying things about the Hanbali school, but we discussed this at great length already. But just to mention it briefly, people that say made these comments all of a sudden didn't realize how much of what they think they know or the sheikhs that they have depend on our sheikhs. So Ahmad Rida Khan studied from Abdullah Sufyan al-Qudumi and Muhammad ibn Humayd. So the people that claim Ahmad Rida Khan and claim they're his foremost lovers and everything else, remember he sat with us. Remember, Mustafa ibn Ahmad al-Shatti was sent letters by the people of India and the sheikhs of India regarding what he says about he didn't send a letter to them. They sent a letter to him.
SubhanAllah.
Our sheikhs are your sheikhs. You're not our sheikhs. We're your sheikhs. The same thing with Abdullah al-Harri. I can pull out the Asanid and show you that he learned from some of the family of Muhammad ibn Hussein al-Hussein, that he learned from some of them. Muhammad ibn Abdullah al-Hussein, who wrote the Zawaid on the Zad al-Mustaqnid. Those are Hanabila. And they weren't Ash'aris. If we have to have this conversation, then we'll have, and people, they get hurt when they start realizing it hurts. It wouldn't, a normal person, it wouldn't bother them knowing those things. It wouldn't hurt them.
Yeah, exactly.
But to them, it hurts their feelings to know that Subki had to learn Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawood, and the Musnad from Ibn Qayyim. It hurts them. Like it damages them, like it bothers them to know that he had to learn that, and that Nawawi sat with Shamsuddin and Quddar. Like it hurt them to wait a minute. No, the Ash'aris were all there was. Like it hurts them to know that they had to learn from. Yeah, and it hurts them to know that they had to. What's that got to do with any of that? For anyone else, when I found out that Ahmad Khan had learned from them, I was like, oh, subhanAllah, that's amazing. Because I thought at the beginning it was fair. Before I knew his full name, I thought that Ahmad Khan, I thought he was Arab because the way he wrote like an Arab. So I thought he was Arab. I didn't think anything different. I didn't know he was an Afghani until much later. Right? Because my mind doesn't go towards those things because my teachers didn't teach me to be like that. They taught us to go towards the ilm and whoever has it. Whether they're Kurds or Imam al-Bulti being a Kurd didn't take anything away from him. Or the fact that he's Shafi'i and Ash'ari, that doesn't ruin anything. I mean, Imam al-Bulti had been to Duma. I mean, Imam Wahb al-Zuhaili, he studied in Duma. Because that's how he learned the Dalil, the Mukhtasar of Dalil that he has with Fiqh Muyassir from Abdul Qadir al-Qassab, who has a school built in his honor in Syria. He's seen as a big wali of Allah in Syria and in Jordan. There's 2 schools that are built in his name. Abdul Qadir al-Qassab, big Sufi, big Hanbali. Right? No one has these weird hang-ups. People study from each other, they learn from each other, and they don't have these problems. Abdul Rahman al-Shami is in a gathering with Shafi'is and others, and it doesn't hurt him. Right? But we know people have their preferences. Like, when Salih al-Shami was giving that gathering about taqwa that you saw when we were at the house, and the guy, he couldn't hold himself, and he had to mention how he's related to all these big Hanbali scholars, and don't forget them. Alhamdulillah, that happens. People have their preferences, and he can't hold himself. Okay, fine. But there was never any ta'assub in that. He was just so happy to know that there's all these sheikhs that came from this. There's no harm in that if you find out that Bahauddin Shah Naqshband was Hanafi. Oh, subhanAllah, that's amazing. He was Hanafi. Or the richest man in history was Muslim, but he was Maliki in fiqh. Those are things, alhamdulillah, that's amazing, right? Or Junayd al-Baghdadi was Hanbali. Right? Muhammad al-Baghdadi was Hanbali. That alhamdulillah, people are excited. Imam Ghazali was Shafi'i, or these scholars were Shafi'is, or these scholars were Hanafis. Rumi was Hanafi. Yeah, he was Hanafi. Oh, he used to be Shafi'i, then became Hanafi. Oh, that's amazing. Right? That doesn't take anything away. It's just finding out that piece of information is, wow, I'm associated with those people because I'm learning this fiqh. It's like they've gone through these books like I've gone through these books. So it's a ta'alluq, it's a connection that you're having that's filling your heart with farih. And your heart, instead of being filled with ta'assub, it's filled with farih because, oh, mashallah, I've read the dalil, or I've read the primer, and these ulama have already read it. They've also read that because it's the mukhtasar of the dalil. Oh, look at all the different ulama that have read the dalil. Oh, subhanallah, I'm now connected somehow to these people. Our eyes have looked upon the same masail, right? That's ta'alluq. And the believers become joyous at that connection.
Yes. And this also prevents extremism in Talfiq. So when necessary, one should adapt a hukum from another madhab. For example,
Yes.
you mentioned prior that today it's basically widespread accepted that people going on jihad, they'll be predominantly basing it on the Hanbali fiqh of jihad.
Yes, because the big books that they're using, because Imam Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, he didn't leave down a book of fiqh or jihad in detail. So the books that people are using, because of the amount of masail in jihad, or Majmu' Fatawa, Al-Mughni, and the Mawsu'at al-Jihad. Those are the three most prominent books, and Al-Kafi. Why? Well, why? Why those ones? Well, Imam Taqi ibn Taymiyyah was a mujahid, and he fought during the Tatar period, so he has a lot of the masail that come up. Muwaffaquddin Qudama, Al-Mughni, because of the development in his book of jihad, and Al-Kafi, development book of jihad, and then Mawsu'at al-Jihad, because it deals with modern warfare and what goes with that. And that has Mawsu'at al-Jihad has been taken from those kutub and synthesized. So that's what it is. But no one assumes, because if you're looking at the big bulk of some of our mujahideen in certain areas, like some of the mujahideen of Palestine are not Hanbalis, they're Shafi'is.
No, exactly.
But it doesn't hurt taking them.
Yeah.
The Taliban, other mujahids in Afghanistan, they're Hanafis. It hasn't harmed them, it hasn't hurt them. Some of the mujahideen in the Caucasus, they're Shafi'is as well. Hasn't hurt them. The Hanafi ones, the Maliki ones, it hasn't hurt them at all.
Because this tahassub here in this issue, it would be extremely difficult, because you're stating everything's only going to go by my madhab. Now, we're not saying that one should be extremely lenient in take of all madhabs, but one necessary.
Yes.
This should be acted upon.
Because that's a danger as well. If you're too lenient, now that's ittiba' al-hawa. Now you're following your hawa now. Which Taqi ibn Taymiyyah said, and others have said, that this is a nullifier, because now you're following your own desires, you're going to nullify your actions. Right? So if someone's just like, okay, well, on Monday I'm going to pray with this, on Tuesday I'm going to, no, don't do that. Don't do that. They've all warned against this. It's only juhala from among the Sufiya and people like that say, I'll pray Dhuhr as a Shafi'i and Asr as a Maliki. No, that's juhul. Because most people don't have that level of attention to detail and knowledge to do that. That's juhul. That's proper juhul. Because most people in the ummah are laity, and most laity don't have the time to learn things like that, to be able to do all those things to that detail. That's proper juhul. That's proper juhul.
SubhanAllah. And for example, all the examples that you mentioned, what comes to mind is Sheikh Muhammad Abu Zahra. Now, he was a Hanafi marja, right?
Yes,
but
big figure.
He made a statement on a lot of the issues of today that the Hanbali madhab is very lenient in dealing with them, right? So he was very clear on this.
Yes, and this is because in the book of transactions, we're at the further end of the spectrum. We're the most lenient. And because we're the most lenient, because of how our usul are, like the 4 types of sharika, the 4 types of partnership, the other schools may only have 2. But we hold that there are 4 types of sharika. Well, for a lot of the businesses, for sharika, especially when you talk about sharika that may involve wakala. If you're talking about sharika that involves wakala, most business today is done by wakala.
Subhanallah, naam.
So if you start restricting people, or you start saying, well, not only do your direct transactions have to be sahih and devoid of any haram, but even indirect transactions, well, then you can't live in Darul Kufr at all. You can't live in Darul Kufr at all. When it comes to food consumption, when it comes to shipping, like the fact that you'll have a guy that works at Lidl or Aldi. Okay, that guy he's in a sharika with Lidl or Aldi. They say, we're going to pay you to go out to the farm and pick up this food and drive it back. Well, the guy that drives the truck, he doesn't own the truck. He's a driver on behalf of Lidl or Aldi. When he gets to the farm, the guy he's meeting at the farm, that's not the guy that owns the property, the farmer. He's someone on behalf of that farmer. So when he's handing over those eggs might not be the chickens the farmer himself owns, because the number's so huge. He's leasing them from someone else. You're starting to see what's happening? So then he hands that over. The guy drives the eggs back on behalf of someone, on behalf of. No. Then he brings it to Aldi. The person that's the manager of Aldi, that's not the owner. That's the person that was chosen by the regional director. And that Aldi wasn't opened by the owner. It was opened by the guy that owns the franchise of that. So very little of time in the business in
Exactly.
wakala, most of the time in wakala, you're not dealing with the direct owners of those businesses.
Mhm.
You're dealing with the wukala that have been appointed to do business on their behalf because the amount of business is happening on such a high level in such a huge quantity, the owners themselves can't possibly keep track of it.
Mhm.
Then you've got teams of bookkeepers, teams of lawyers, teams of distributors, teams of drivers,
Mm.
teams of farmers, teams of distributors, teams of agriculturalists. Subhanallah. If you try to
Yes.
say, no, I'm only going to stay in this issue of wakala and the and the two sharika, I'm only, okay, then so your business is going to be restricted.
That's it, right?
Especially when you talk about how so much of our business, when you look at how much business is conducted online, that's the very essence of wakala and the sharika. When you open a YouTube page, when you decide I'm going to have a YouTube channel, and then you decide to run ads, that's wakala and sharika.
Mm.
That's all for
Subhanallah.
sometimes when someone opens a YouTube page, you know how someone will say, I'm opening this YouTube page and I'm in partnership or sponsorship with
No.
someone else. That's not, now you're in sharika again. That's all four forms of sharika and wakala happening simultaneously. Now, for some fuqaha, they'll say that's haram. Okay, so you can't have a YouTube page. And if you're on, okay, you can be on social media, but can you get paid? Can you monetize your social media? That depends.
Mm.
Based upon the wakala and sharikas and fuqaha, no, that's haram. So people have to think, man,
Yes.
it's like for this, there comes points where talfiq becomes a haja or a darura in a circumstance. And in the book of transactions, you don't have to worry about talfiq like you would in ibadat. So then why insist
Exactly.
that in each and everything it's only going to be this? Now, true enough, if you've never had to do talfiq, alhamdulillah, then there's no issue. Like I've not had to do talfiq. But for those that have to, then why would you restrict yourself and say, no matter what, I'm going to do this, where it actually harms you? It actually harms you. Don't do that. Be intelligent. Do the talfiq thing in ibadat, in muamalat. If it's in ibadat, then obviously the amal that you want to do has to match with the action. So your wudu, if you're going to be doing something in ibadat, then the thing that you want to do must match with that action. So if it's in wudu, so you're going to make, oh, well, I hold a position that any skin-to-skin contact, accident or otherwise, nullifies wudu. But when I make umrah, the crowding's so great, I'm going to be bumping into people. Okay, well then you need to have wudu according to the school of Imam Ahmed and carry out the things according to this, and you do that talfiq so you can discharge your umrah and your hajj. Alhamdulillah. That's not going to hurt anything at all. Or I hold this wajib to make the 2 rak'ah behind Maqam Ibrahim. Okay, well listen, because of the seriousness of the crowding, you should adopt the position of school of Imam Ahmed, make the wudu according to this, do the salah, and that way it's only a sunnah and you're able to get away from it without being sinful or whatever else.
I remember my father, he said that whenever he went on Hajj, he did it according to the Maliki madhhab to avoid all of these issues, touching skin to skin, other issues.
That's it, because these are the type of problems that you'll find. So it's like, you know what? I'll just do it according to this, and that way I can carry out the obligations and I can finish my things, because there's a genuine need and necessity, and no one's following their desires.
No.
There's a genuine need and necessity. You're on Hajj, there's certain stuff you won't be able to do, or certain things that could create a problem where if left, it could cause a medical emergency. Okay, so then you follow this issue, right? In medicine, people, I would advise people to follow the Hanbali and Maliki school in medicine, because when it comes to things like transplantation, limb transplantation, organ transplants, blood donor, being a blood donor, things like this, they should follow it in that. They should follow that. When it comes to immunizations, they should follow that, because they're the easiest to function with and everything. That's probably the safest thing to do, right? Because the others are so stringent that if there's an emergency in your family regarding blood donating or organ donation, say, well, no, it's haram mutlaqan, it's haram absolutely. But if you're able to do it and you're able to save someone's life, then you do it. Just as much as someone's like, man, I'm fasting and someone's drowning. Okay, well then you adopt the school of Imam Ahmad, you break your fast to because they're saving their life is more important than the Sawm of Ramadan at that moment. Right? These types of things are
Mhm.
areas where there's a genuine need.
Naam.
Or the medical team that separated two children that were joined at the head in Egypt, and it was a 27
Oh.
hour operation. So they had to combine salawat.
Mm.
So they had to adopt the school of Imam Ahmad to combine because it's an emergency. And because their work, they're doctors, that's their work. Okay, so if it would cause harm or loss of life, then you can combine. So they combined. Right? These are the things that are legitimate talfiq and things like
Mhm.
this. But people that are mutaassib in the extreme, they harm themselves and they harm others. They really do harm others because and they don't even know what it is they have because if they were really following the given school in question, they would be following the scholars of taqwa that told them in emergency circumstances that they could do
Exactly,
talfiq
yes.
if they were really following.
This is the issue, right? When trend comes in place.
Yes, yes. So trends, we have to be careful and be very, very mindful of trends and to avoid clashing with people with respect to these trends. We need to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we take on things, especially in fiqh, which is a day-to-day occurrence, if you're going to take on fiqh, my advices would be five. Number one, don't follow the trend and don't follow the spirit of the age. Really think if you're going to take on fiqh, especially if you're going to take on another madhhab, really think it through. Don't do anything where you're being fired out of a cannon or jumping out of a box. Be intelligent and really think about it. Number two, do not become partisan and fanatical to the point to where you disparage the other schools. Because there are men of high rank in all of the schools that are towering figures. And these men, they study from one another and sat with one another and learned from one another. They all did. And they all loved each other. They had their preferences, but they had respect for each other. Number three, when you learn, don't become so partisan that you can't pray with other brothers. You can't make salah with other brothers. You can't function with other brothers. You can't deal with other brothers. Right? Be able to function,
Mm.
respect house rules, and be discreet. If there's something in your fiqh that's peculiar to your fiqh, don't make it a point where I'm going to show the whole world what it is and they're going to learn. No, be discreet. Especially with issues of
Mhm.
qabd and sadl, the tashahud, finger being raised, or whether it's moved right or left, right? Be taqwa, rafal yadain, ameen out loud. These things show taqwa. Get along with people. The fourth is in emergency circumstances where it's required, where you can do talfiq, then you do so. Because the imams that you're from did the same thing when they were in emergency situations. Be intelligent and be righteous and learn these things because by doing that, you're still following the guidance of the imams of your particular school because they told you can do that in those circumstances. And fifth and finally, when you're going to follow a school, you need access to people that are from that school, legitimate people in person as well. Don't do something where you're in Mauritania or you're in India or you're in Malaysia, Indonesia. You're surrounded by almost
Mhm.
wholly one madhhab.
No.
And then you decide, I'm joining this now. You don't have any qudat there. There's no muftis. There's no other. Well, that's it. I'm this now. Don't do that because the difficulties that you put on yourself and other people around you as well that have to now adapt and try to function and things like you cause serious, serious difficulties. So you decide to do something like that. I advise against it because you put yourself and others in danger. You cause problems to other people, really serious problems. So be
Mm.
intelligent about this thing. It's different if you went to Al-Azhar. You're there for 12 years and you change methods. That's
Mm.
different.
No.
You're there around those people. You're going to have regular access to them even after you finish at Al-Azhar. But if you're not a student of knowledge, you're not in that circumstance. Or if you are a student of knowledge, you're in the middle of India or Upper Mongolia or the Volga or Mauritania or these types of places where it's wholly just one madhhab, then the intelligent thing to do would not be to change because you have access to ilm there. It's not like if you're in Albania where so many of them have suffered and the ilm has been so constricted, okay, then you take whatever you can get. And if it happens to be the Shafis, then okay, you take whatever you can get. or Kosovo, some of these places where ilm has been so restricted where you just latch on to whatever you can find and you bite down on it. Okay, then you take what you get. An emergency circumstance like that, then if the first person that you ran across was Maliki, then you would take that because that's the best you can find and the circumstances are quite constricted. But in general, you wouldn't do that because you put yourself in danger and other people in danger. You cause other problems with other people, your level of teaching, your level of learning, the attention to detail, your knowledge. All those things have to be accounted for when you talk about following fiqh in schools. Don't be a flag bearer. Don't be a flag bearer. Be someone who really follows it with intelligence, with knowledge and righteousness, because you do yourself and all those around you and the imams of the past, you do them a great service and you do them proud. So Yawm al-Qiyamah, you can do them proud that you carry through the obligations to the best of your ability that Allah and His Messenger in the first 3 generations told you, and the imams that were subsequent to them, you do all of them proud when you're doing obedience to those matters, and you do so in a responsible way. That's with taqwa and with ilm and with birr, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khairan. And I think also for anyone who's interested, I would say for further reference in understanding the lives of the scholars, looking at them, how they were not extremists, would you also advise the scholars of the first 3 generations, how the 4 imams, how they went about learning from all over the ummah, but never really felt forced to adapt the madhhab of the location they went to? That could be like a good reference point, right?
Yes, this would be also a very good reference point. How you find that of the 40 qadis of Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Ahmad rahimahullah warda learned from 4 of them. Imam Shafi'i learned from Muhammad Hasan Al-Shaybani and Al-Qadi Abu Yusuf, right? Imam Abu Hanifa, although Imam Malik was 14 years his senior, he learned from him. He listened to the Muwatta. These people, they learned, they made salah with one another, they learned from one another, and no one felt inferior.
Right.
Right. Imam Ahmed, he traveled to Yemen, and he was in Yemen. He didn't become Zaidi when he was in Yemen. He was he was based there, and that's what he did. He came back. Right. No one made snap decisions. The decisions that people made, when you look at imams and people that decided to change madhabs, those decisions were based upon careful deliberation and decisions that they made. And they made a decision. There wasn't a snap judgment. It wasn't based upon they felt a sudden upsurge of something. No, they sat down, they thought about it, they made dua, and they made a clear decision, and then they were established on that decision. Right? So have taqwa and have knowledge, and studying the first 3 generations helps you to avoid ta'assub, but also being irresponsible when it comes to fiqh and methods as well.
MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah. Barakallah fika. So, alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khairan, Shaykh, for informing us of all these issues. And I'd say in closing, with the last application, I'll give the last words to you, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send His salat and salam on His messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We ask that He have mercy and blessings and send peace and blessings upon him and all the prophets that had come throughout history before he was finally brought into this world for us to receive his message and believe in him. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send his blessings and his rida upon the Sahaba, their students, and their students' students, and the Imams that came after. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us and send his rida and his ridwan upon us in this month of Ramadan. That he accept our sawm, our qiyam and salat tarawih, our righteous deeds that we're striving to do, that he forgives us our misdeeds, that he doubles and triples up to 700 or more in doubling our righteous deeds and our character. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the believers that are involved in this recording, the believers that listen to the recording, and that they take the advice in here so that they might better themselves and those around them. And we ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it possible for the people listening to take away the advice that we've given and the warnings and the glad tidings that we've given and be able to implement them so that they get the best out of their lives, so that they can carry through their obligations to the best of their ability, so that their deeds are accepted and blessed, and any misdeeds are forgiven and overlooked by our righteous and holy God. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this possible for them. And we ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cause those that hear this, if they have disparaged or undermined or reviled imams of other schools, that they make tawbah. That they make tawbah, and in place, as a way of penance and repentance for what they did, that they actually start to praise those imams' names, to extol them, to have good characters. So that way, the ghibah that they've done, where they chewed their flesh, where they could lose their deeds on Yawm al-Qiyamah and be punished, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so chooses, in the fire, instead, that those imams forgive them of that. And that they make dua for them instead in their graves when they hear the praise that's being heaped upon them by these people, that they make dua instead, that they forgive them, that they ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive them, so that when they come on the day where there is no shade but the shade of Allah, that those believers are under that shade. And in finality, we ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might bless us in the end of this month of Ramadan, that He bless our scholars, the marja', the fuqaha, the muftis of righteousness and goodness that are in prison, that are out, that are suffering. Imam Ismail Badran, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him and his family.
Ameen.
That the Shami family, Salih al-Shami, who's in jail, and we ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala release him. And the other big imams that are also going through tribulation, Salih al-Asmari, who went through tribulation with them. The other imams, we ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them, the mujahideen, wherever they are, the ones that are going through things in Palestine, the mujahideen in Afghanistan, the mujahideen in the upper Volga region, the mujahideen that are in inner and upper Mongolia, the mujahideen that are dealing with things in East Timor, the mujahideen in Mindanao, the mujahideen that are in Egypt, and the mujahideen in other locations, wherever they may be. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them, send our glad tidings to them, and let them know that they're not alone, that we're making dua for them, and we hope for their victory or their quick entrance into the paradise in the breasts of green birds, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses them, where they fly around His throne under the candelabra and chandeliers of His throne, as is mentioned in the ahadith. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless those scholars, those mujahideen, and He give them goodness, and the sisters that are upholding the principles regarding hijab to its fullness. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them, and all the believers in the ummah, wherever they may be, living or deceased, from the beginning to the end. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk innahu ghafurur rahim yarhamur rahim wa la ilaha illa Allah. Wassalamu alaykum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.